My Karen-in-laws accused me of ruining their daughter's life because I was too busy playing potions instead of being a real man, so I tricked them into using my potions and saved their life. When I married my wife, I, 27, signed up to be family to my two Kardashian-level mean girl in-laws, Margaret and Sarah. They are the carbon definition of Karens to anyone who isn't in their family. They're always nitpicking, ignoring, or straight up arguing with literally anyone who doesn't agree with them. My wife had to deal with them for her whole life, so whenever I complained about them to her, she'd tell me they just take some getting used to and eventually they'll warm up to me. But it was getting hard to ignore their eye rolls when I just mentioned the weather or their, "Okay, we get it," comments whenever I'd speak for more than 2 seconds. It was grating on me so much that I was considering skipping family events with them entirely, because even on our wedding day they told our entire family that they didn't think a male beautician could provide for their baby girl. I'm not even a beautician. That comment nearly made me want to break their 10-inch acrylic nails, but I took a deep breath and instantly calmed down when I looked at my wife. One night, my wife forced me to go with her to a family gathering because she really wanted to see her nieces and nephews, and I obliged. I was dreading seeing my in-laws, but if I went through one family gathering every once in a while, I'll make my wife perfectly happy. When we got there and settled in, it took everything in me to ignore my in-laws' snarky remarks about how feminine I looked and how my wife looked so tired from babysitting me. My wife, being the angel she is, quickly put them in their place and told them that I made her happier than she'd ever been, and it was best to stop yapping about me. They clearly took her advice because they found their new topic to rant about now, their disgusting skin. Margaret was ranting to Sarah about how she shouldn't be decaying at the age of 50, and that her wrinkles were starting to get embarrassing. She even sighed loudly and said, "Don't even get me started on these random polka dots on my skin." Sarah even joined in and said she hated her acne that literally were stuck to her skin since she was 14 years old, and our nephews were starting to make her look just like Margaret. I almost laughed loudly to that, because usually they're always bragging about how good they take care of themselves, but in reality they look like they're 50 years older. But since my main goal of the day was to survive the night like I was in Five Nights at Freddy's, I shut my male beautician self up before they point at me and claim I was mansplaining. They even started whining that skincare is a scam and they were even considering Botox at this point. I kind of rolled my eyes at that one, because if they had just tried to give me a chance, maybe I could have helped them. But I stayed quiet, and survived that night. But sadly, my wife dragged me to another one for Easter, and I made sure to keep myself near the kids this time. I couldn't deal with their snobby attitudes another time, and the kids really helped me keep my cool. My wife, though, couldn't stop ranting about me like some proud mom, because she was so proud all my hard work at the clinic was finally starting to pay off. That seemed to catch my in-laws' attention, because they were convinced I was secretly flamboyant and worked at a salon. When my wife told them I was actually an esthetician, they didn't let their shock last for long. They went into an even longer rant about how I was guaranteeing their perfect girl to go bankrupt from putting all of her hard-earned dollars into my daydreams. They started ranting about it for so long that I nearly wanted to pull up my bank account and show them how much I'd been saving to treat my wife to a $20,000 vacation. My wife looked slightly ticked off, but suddenly, her face lit up. She changed the topic to their skin and mentions that their skin showing more wrinkles, making them look like Pearl from X, and tells them that she might have something that can help them. She said she'd been using Growth Factor sunscreen for a few months and she hadn't had single pimple since, even when she was about to have her period or ate 50 pounds of pure chocolate. They looked at her for 5 minutes straight and realized she didn't even have one wrinkle all over her gorgeous face, and they instantly asked where to get it. They left that night so excited that they didn't even bother to comment on where she found it from, because if they did, they'd refuse to even mutter the name of the product. The product was one of my top recommendations at my clinic, and I'd mentioned to my wife that if they just used the sunscreen, they'd do much better. But I knew they wouldn't take the advice if they heard it from me. For the next couple of weeks, they blew up my wife's phone with pictures of their face every day after using the sunscreen. They ranted about how nice it felt on their skin, and how their makeup didn't even get messed up when they put it on, and begged her to tell them where she got it from. I almost felt like cackling anytime they called and completely ignored my hellos because I was literally saving their lives, but my wife kept it a secret for my sake. The next time we saw them, their wrinkles were nearly gone completely. Margaret started to look like she was in her early 40s, and don't even get me started on how Sarah looked like she'd never worried a day in her life. Their skin started to look like actual skin, instead of some toddler's colorful masterpiece. They couldn't stop raving about the sunscreen that night, begging my wife to stop the secret so that they could send a gift basket to whoever she got the idea from. I could tell from the look on my wife's face that she had devious plans, and, as soon as she opened her mouth, I saw them. She innocently told them that I was the one who recommended the Growth Factor sunscreen. It was actually my top recommendation at my clinic. Margaret nearly dropped her cup of coffee on her lap and Sarah started gripping the seat so hard her nails started to bend. I could tell they didn't expect that I actually knew what I was doing at my clinic, but they looked at me in a different way for the first time. I knew it took all of their pride to mutter out a thank you that night, but something shifted from then on. They started to text me often, asking me what skin products were good for them, and they didn't even mind telling me I was good at what I did. At family gatherings, they even listened to me speak longer than a minute, until they eventually did get their maximum of male speaking hours done with. I actually started to enjoy their company, because although they were annoying, they seemed to actually care about family. And now, I finally felt like they added me to their list, just because I recommended them Growth Factor sunscreen.